desperate, and dishonest fake news whose goal origins and natural-born citizens together make up the shining city on the hill, he tweeted. King's Democratic opponent, J.D. Schloten, said he welcomed Stiver's comments. Last week, I issued a challenge for at least one Republican elected to Steve King's recent behavior. I applaud Steve Stiver's share of the NRCC respect, Schloten said in a tweet. Stiver's admonition came hours after Land O'Lakes announced that it was withdrawing its support from King. The company had faced calls for a boycott after news surfaced that it had made a $2,500 contribution to King's campaign in June. Tech giant Intel also recently announced that it was King in light of his recent comments, Fast Company reported. The nonpartisan Cook Political Report changed its rating for King's district Tuesday from likely Republican to lean Republican, noting that Schloten has King, in large part thanks to disgusted national donors who view King as a racist. Even so, the political handicapper noted that it's less clear his views have damaged his political standing back home in Northwest Iowa, where King has been easily reelected in the past and where President Donald Trump won a resounding victory in 2016. King has a history of incendiary remarks on race and immigration throughout his 16 years in Congress. Last year, King was widely criticized after he declared in a tweet that he agreed with far-right Dutch politician Geert Wilders that our civilization cannot be restored with somebody else's babies. In June, King prompted criticism when he retweeted a message sent by Mark Collett, a self-described Nazi sympathizer. King declined to delete the retweet. Earlier this month, King retweeted his support for Faith Goldy, a white nationalist who is running for Toronto mayor. An editor for the conservative Weekly Standard responded by writing a piece in which he called King's America most deplorable congressman. And last week it emerged that King had met in August with members of a far-right Austrian party with historical Nazi ties and had declared that Western civilization is on the decline. Paul?
This article entitled, Study Shows Nebraskans' Preferences on Taxes. The majority of Nebraskans said they would swallow tax hikes elsewhere in exchange for paying less in property taxes, according to a Family Feud-style survey from the Omaha-based Platt Institute. While nearly half of the 300-plus people who responded to a survey said property tax relief should be at the top of the legislative agenda next year, 61% told the business-oriented Platt Institute they were willing to pay more in other taxes in order to see their property tax bills go down. Adam Weinberg, communications director at the Platt Institute, said the unscientific survey was designed to obtain more information on what Nebraskans mean when they say they want property tax relief. It was kind of designed to put people in a vice and say, what would you put up with to get your property taxes in a lower place, Weinberg said. According to the results published on Tuesday, some Nebraskans apparently put up with a lot. Of those polled by the Platt Institute, 55% said they would support a state sales tax hike to generate new revenue capable of replacing revenue generated through locally assessed property taxes. Among the results, 46% said they had no problem with paying sales taxes on personal services like haircuts. 44% said those who use transportation services like ride-share services or taxis should pay additional taxes. 38% said plumbing, electrical, or other home repair services should be subject to more taxes. 25% indicated new taxes should be levied on groceries. Currently, the sale of any foods or ingredients used for home preparation are not taxed, according to the Nebraska Department of Revenue. 21% supported additional gas taxes, even after the legislature enacted a gradual 6-cent gas tax hike over the veto of Governor Pete Ricketts in 2015. Weinberg said the results show Nebraskans may feel like higher sales taxes, would provide more control over how they pay taxes rather than feeling taxes foisted upon them by local government entities or watching it come out of their paychecks. But how any increase is deployed, either through an across-the-board increase or targeted increases on now exempt items and services, needs to be done deliberately, Weinberg said. So it encourages Nebraskans to participate, maintaining a solid revenue stream. Sarah Curry, the Platt Institute's Director of Policy, said consensus is marshaling around the idea of removing certain sales tax exemptions or levying new sales taxes in order to provide property tax relief. It will be up to the legislature to determine which exemptions the state wants to cease offering, she added. It will be a tough fight, particularly if the other responses to the Platt Institute survey are indicative of the state's feelings on the issue. Roughly 1/3 of the respondents said the legislature would need to find a way to lower property tax bills by 20% in order for them to feel the problem had been addressed. Another 30% said they would be satisfied with property tax bills that were 30% lower than they are currently up.
Officials with HDR Incorporated and Burlington Capital Group gave the Douglas County Board a cost breakdown Tuesday for a courthouse annex and juvenile detention center proposed for downtown Omaha. The project always has been estimated to cost about $120 million. On Tuesday, HDR's Bruce Carpenter and Burlington's Don Molman broke out cost categories for the first time publicly. They said building construction would cost $97 million. Of that, a 10-story tower with juvenile courtrooms and offices for judges, attorneys, juvenile probation, and unnamed community programs, and a skywalk across Harney Street to the current city-county building would cost about $67 million. A 4-story juvenile detention center designed to house 48 youth with possible expansion to 64 would cost about $26 million. The estimated site preparation at $4.2 million. They also included $5.7 million in contingency costs. The 168,000 square foot tower would include 6 finished courtrooms for the Douglas County Juvenile Court and the shells of 2 additional courtrooms. The 60,000 square foot detention center would include a clinic, educational space, and a green roof that could be used for recreation. Molman said the project is designed to the budget of $120 million. The Omaha Douglas Public Building Commission voted in May to declare its intent to issue $120 million in bonds for the project, but actually issuing the bonds would require the approval of the Public Building Commission, the Douglas County Board, and the Omaha City Council. Such votes could be months away. Carpenter said the building would be built to modern standards and trauma-informed design, with such features as lots of natural light. He said they would reduce the amount of time youth spend in detention. County Board member Jim Kavanaugh noted that the cost estimates did not include a proposed parking garage or site acquisition costs. Kavanaugh opposes the youth center part of the project, as well as using eminent domain to acquire an old building on the site, using a nonprofit corporation to develop the project, and not putting the bonds out for a public vote. Molman told Kavanaugh that a 5-story garage would cost about $7 million and the site acquisition cost would be about $4 million. Kavanaugh said he agrees that the county needs a new juvenile courthouse, but he advocates renovating the current juvenile detention center off 42nd Street instead of building a new one downtown. Board member Mike Boyle, a former supporter of the project, said Kavanaugh sure asks some annoying questions that I really like. Boyle said he wants the county to go back to the drawing board and consider more options, including putting juvenile court space near the detention center off 42nd Street. Board member Mary Ann Borgenson, a supporter, said that this is going to be a continued This is going to continue to be a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation for her and fellow proponents of the project. She said the update Tuesday and proposed programming changes, such as a proposed mental health partnership with Creighton and the University of Nebraska, show that backers are doing what the public has asked them to do. We're showing our due diligence on this, and it's coming out to be a good project, she said. HDR in Burlington estimated non-construction costs at $13.9 million. Those would include $7.3 million for HDR as architect and engineer, and $2.5 million for Burlington as project manager. Paul?
Well, it's 10:38, and again, based upon the number of obituaries we have, we're going to switch over to the obituary page. I will be reading from the Lincoln Journal-Star. Kratzstil. Raymond Kratzstil, Chrastil, 73, of Crete. He will have a mass on 10:30 a.m. Friday at Sacred Heart Church in Crete. There will be a rosary at 7 p.m. today at Sacred Heart Church. Kunkel Funeral Home is handling the affairs. Doer. Pamela Doher, D-O-H-E-R, age 66, of Alvo. Memorial service will be at 11 a.m. Tuesday, November 6th at Roper and Sons Chapel on O Street. Memorials to the Muscular Dystrophy Association. Roper and Sons Funeral Home is handling her arrangements. Doric. Carmela Doric, age 94, of Wilbur. Funeral services will be at 10:30 a.m. Saturday, November 3rd, at Kunkel Funeral Home in Crete. Ernest, Robert Ernest Sr., age 77. Funeral services will be at 11 a.m. Friday, November 2nd, Colonial Chapel Funeral Home on R Street. Visitations will be from 5 to 8 p.m. Thursday, November 1st, at the funeral home. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be directed to the family. Faisal, Jack Faisal, age 58. A memorial service will be held at 11 a.m. Thursday, November 1st, at Redeemer Lutheran Church on 33rd Street. Memorials can be made out to the family. Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home is handling the arrangements. Fiala, John Fiala, age 92, of Lincoln. A celebration of life service to be held at 1 p.m. Saturday, November 3rd, at First Lutheran Church on South 70th Street. There will be no visitation due to cremation. Froon, Amy Froon, age 93, of Lincoln. Funeral services are pending with Bruthers, Mazer, and Love Funeral Home. Georges, Josh Georges, age 36, of Schubert. No other information is available at this time. Hack, Marvin Hack, H-A-A-C-K, age 87, of York. Funeral service will be at 10 a.m. Friday, November 2nd, at Emmanuel Lutheran Church in York. Met's Mortuary in York is handling the arrangements. Haley, Harlan Haley, age 80, of Lincoln. A celebration of Harlan's life will be at 11 a.m. Friday at Christ Lutheran Church on Sumner Street. Memorials to the Nebraska Alzheimer's Association. Bruthers, Mazer, and Love Funeral Home will be handling the arrangements. Harm, Phyllis Harm, age 84. Her service will be held at 11 a.m. on Sunday, November 4th, at Bruthers, Mazer, and Love Funeral Home on A Street. In lieu of flowers, the family is asking for donations in Phyllis's memory to the Fisher Center for Alzheimer's Research. Hudson, Richard Hudson, age 94, of Lincoln. Memorial service will be at 2 on Thursday, November 1st, at Roper and Sons Chapel on Honesty. No visitation. Memorials can be sent to the Masonic Home or the Shriners Children's Hospital. Kessler, Gilbert Kessler, age 87, of Grisham. Funeral service will be at 2 p.m. Friday, November 2nd, at Grisham Presbyterian Church. That's Mortuary in York is handling his arrangements. Kirk, James Kirk, age 77. Services will be held at 11 a.m. Tuesday, November 6th at Colonial Chapel Funeral Home on R Street. Memorials may be directed to his family for later designation. Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home is handling those arrangements. Corner, Robert Corner, Koerner, age 91. Viewing will be from 1 to 9 p.m. with family present from 5 to 7 p.m., followed by a rosary service at 7 p.m. on Thursday at Buthurst Mazer and Love Funeral Home on A Street. The funeral will be held at 10:30 a.m. Friday at Cathedral of the Risen Christ on Sheridan Boulevard. Memorials to the family for later designation. Cottis, Robert Cottis, Kottas, age 59, of Milligan. The funeral service will be at 10 a.m. Friday at Milligan at the Auditorium in Milligan. Farmer and Sons Funeral Home, Cottis Chapel on Milligan, is handling the arrangements. Graveside services will be at the Bohemian National Cemetery in Geneva. Memorials are suggested to the family for future designation. Matson, Dorothy Matson, age 102. A memorial service will be held at 11 a.m. on Saturday, November 3rd at First United Methodist Church. In lieu of flowers, donations in Dorothy memory may be made to First United Methodist Church organ renovation, Luke's Center for the Arts, or Donor's Choice. Roper and Sons Funeral Home is handling her arrangements. Miller, Brenda Miller, age 60, of Lincoln. A celebration of life will be held from 2 to 4 p.m. on Sunday, November 4th at the Lincoln Elks Lodge, number 80 on South 58th Street. Murphy, Clayton Murphy, age 85, of Lincoln. Funeral service will be held at 10:30 a.m. Friday, November 2nd, Capital City Christian Church on Holdridge Street. Roper and Sons is handling the arrangements. Neal, George Neal, age 81. Funeral service will be held at 4 p.m. on Friday, November 2nd at Heritage Presbyterian Church on South 35th Street. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be given to Heritage Church or to the Salvation Army Small Fry basketball team. Roper and Sons Funeral Home on O Street is handling those arrangements. Osborne, John Osborne of Hastings, age 78. Services will be at 11 a.m. Thursday, November 1st at First Presbyterian Church in Hastings. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be given to the Hastings Community Foundation, where they will be distributed to various worthwhile community causes important to Jack. Excuse me. Livingston, Butler Volin Funeral Home and Cremation Center is serving the family. Packwood, Rex Patwood, age 70, at Tecumseh. The memorial service will be at 2 p.m. Friday, November 2nd at Weary Mortuary in Tecumseh. Rayon, Irma Rayon, age 88. No other information is available. Summerholder, William Summerholder, age 96, of Steinauer. Again, no other information is available. Williams, Bobby Williams, age 53. Visitation will be from 2 to 7:30 p.m. on Friday, November 2nd at Roper and Sons, O Street Chapel. Funeral will be held at 11 a.m. November 3rd at First Baptist Church in Lincoln. Williams, Kathleen, 48, of Lincoln. Celebration of life will be held from 2 to 4 p.m. Saturday, November 10th at the Unitarian Church on A Street. Aspen Aftercare is handling her arrangements. Wysong, David Wysong, age 84, of Lincoln. A celebration of David's life will be held at 2 p.m. on Saturday, November 24th at St. Mark's United Methodist Church on Pioneers Boulevard. Memorials in lieu of flowers may be made to Sally G. and David S. Wysong Memorial Scholarship Fund through Lincoln Public Schools Foundation on O Street, or a charity of your choice. Roper and Sons is handling the arrangements. And finally, Kurt Yost, age 70 of Lincoln. Memorial services will be at 11 a.m. Friday, November 2nd, at the Westminster Presbyterian Church on Sheridan Boulevard. Memorials to the donors' charity of choice. Roper and Sons South Lincoln Chapel is handling the arrangements. Bob?
And these are the obituaries for the Omaha World Herald for October 31. Bianchi, Eddie Bianchi, age 93. He was a veteran serving in the U.S. in the Navy during World War II. Memorials in Eddie's name may be directed to St. Pius X Catholic Church. John A. Gentleman Mortuaries and Crematory on 72nd Street is handling the arrangement. Bohl, William Bill Bohl, B-O-H-L, 100 years old, of Goodyear, Arizona, originally from Norfolk, Nebraska. A celebration of life will be held in Omaha at a later date. The location and time to be determined. ThompsonFuneralChapel.com is handling the arrangements. Borcherding, Richard M. Borcherding, age 88, a veteran. Memorials to St. Jude Children's Hospital or the Salvation Army. John A. Gentleman Mortuary on 72nd Street. Syrian, Judith K. Syrian, that's C-I-R-I-A-N, age 75. Her memorial will be held in Colorado next summer. There is no funeral home listed. Clow, that's C-L-O-W, Patricia T. Clow, age 90. Celebration of life to be held at a later date. Memorials to Omaha Playhouse or ASPCA. Heafy Hoffman DeVore Cutler, West Center Chapel. Ferguson, Nancy J. Ferguson, age 97. Services at 1 p.m. at the West Center Chapel of Heafy Hoffman DeVore Cutler. Memorials will be directed by the family. Galloway, Louise C. Galloway, age 91. Christian burial Friday, November 2 at 10 a.m. at the church, which is the St. Peter's and Paul Catholic Church on South 36th Street. Bethany Funeral Home on 82nd and Harrison is handling the arrangement. Gates, Mildred Gates, age 86, of Gretna, Nebraska. Funeral services 2 p.m. Friday at the Reichmuth Funeral Home in Elkhorn. Memorials can be made to either ELCA or Alzheimer's Association and can be left or mailed to the funeral home, and it's Reichmuth Funeral Home on West Maple. Healy, John P. Jack Healy, age 92, has a Christian burial Wednesday today at 10 a.m., so that's already almost probably over. Heafy Hoffman DeVore Cutler, West Center Chapel. Heenan, Catherine K. Marie Heenan, age 82, private family services in lieu of flowers, memorials to St. Columban Fathers on North Calhoun Street in Bellevue, West Lawn Hillcrest Funeral Home on West Center. Hokinson, Susie Hokinson, age 71, funeral service Friday, November 2 at 11 a.m. at All Saints Episcopal Church on Blondo Street. Memorials to All Saints Episcopal Church, Heafy Hoffman DeVore Cutler, West Center Chapel. Hook, Cynthia Jane Rose Hook, age 68. Services will be held on October 29 at Our Lady of the Cove Catholic Church in Kimberling City, Missouri. There is no funeral home listed, no memorials listed. Hurdy, John C. Hurdy, that's H-R-D-Y, age 61. Memorial service at 11 a.m. at the mortuary tomorrow. Carisco, Lark, and Stathquist Funeral Home on S Street. Matern, Marilyn Kaylin Matern, age 90. There will be a service November 3 at 10 a.m., followed by an 11 a.m. Mass at St. Patrick's Catholic Church in O'Neill, Nebraska. Memorials to O'Neill St. Mary's Schools, O'Neill St. Patrick's Catholic Church, and O'Neill Public Library. There is no funeral home listed. McGill, Matthew J. McGill, age 52. There will be a complete notice later. John A. Gentleman Mortuaries on 72nd Street. McCoon, Blake R. McCoon, age 17. Celebration of Blake's life, Friday, November 2 at 10:30 a.m. at the Water's Edge Church at 196 in Harrison Street. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be given to the youth ministry at the Water's Edge Church, Brahmin Mortuary on 144th Street. Meaves, Hilda V. Meaves, age 96, of Bennington. Funerals Thursday, 10:30 a.m. at St. John's Lutheran Church in Bennington. Memorials to the church or Bennington Rescue Squad. Hayden Golden Reichmuth Mortuary in Bennington is handling the arrangements. Mimic, John Robert Mimic, age 72. Mass of Christian Burial Friday, November 2 at 10:30 a.m. at St. Wenceslaus Catholic Church on Pacific Street. Memorials may be directed by the family. Heafy Hoffman DeVore Cutler, West Center Chapel. Mixon, Mary Ann Mixon, age 93. A memorial service, visitation Friday, November 2 from 5 to 7 p.m. at Bethany Funeral Home with a memorial service to immediately follow. Bethany Funeral Home is at 82nd and Harrison Street. Mullock, David George Mullock, age 56. Memorial service Friday, November 2 at 11 a.m. at St. John's Lutheran Church in Bennington. Hillcrest Lawn Funeral Home is handling the arrangements. Nelson, Clarence G. Nelson Jr., age 82, a veteran. Services 1 p.m. Monday, November 5 at Forest Lawn Funeral Home on Mormon Bridge Road. There will be military honors. Pacholski, Francis Big Frank Pacholski, that's Pacholski, 77 years old. Mass of Christian Burial Friday, November 2 at St. Columkill Catholic Church. Bethany Funeral Home on 82nd and Harrison is handling the arrangements. Page, Laura E. Page, age 80, of Plattsmouth. Funeral 10:30 a.m. Friday, November 2 at the mortuary, Roby Mortuary in Plattsmouth. Memorials to the Life Spring Church in Bellevue. Parks, Melvin James Parks, 101 years old. Celebration of Life, 4 p.m. Thursday at the Crosby Burkett Swanson Golden Funeral Home on West Center Road in Omaha. In lieu of flowers, the family wishes memorials to go to the American Heart Association in his memory. Pierce, Gundala K. Pierce, age 90. Graveyard service for the burial of ashes for Gundala and Thomas Pierce to be held at the Omaha National Cemetery on Friday, November 2 at 11 a.m. Memorials have been suggested to the Papillion Family History Center, Bethany Funeral Home at 82nd and Harrison. Rockwell, Sandra K. Rockwell, age 76. Funeral Thursday, November 1 at the mortuary of Gaylord Dolch Mortuary on Washington Street in Papillion. Rose, Wallace J. Wally Rose, age 91, of Lincoln, formerly of Gothenburg. Memorial 10 a.m. at the Blaise Strouser Memorial Chapel. That is in Gothenburg. The family asks that those attending the memorial wear Husker attire. Memorials may be given to the UNICEF USA Kids in Need of Desk, KIND, K-I-N-D, the acronym, for Malawi, Africa, and can be sent to the Blaise Strouser Memorial Chapel. Rudiger, Edna M. Rudiger, age 94. Services Friday, November 2 at Forest Lawn. Memorials may be directed to the family for a designation in Edna's memory at a later date. Forest Lawn is on Mormon Bridge Road. Sazama, James E. Sazama, Sazama, age 74, a veteran. Funeral Friday, November 2 at 11 a.m. at West Center Chapel of Heaphy Hoffman DeVore Cutler. Memorials are suggested to St. Jude Hospital. Staley, Nancy L. Staley, maiden name Ferguson, age 83, of North Bend, Nebraska. Funeral Mass, 10:30 a.m. Friday at St. Charles Borromeo Catholic Church in North Bend. Mosier Memorial Chapel in North Bend is handling the arrangement. Swigert, Don W. Swigert, age 90, a veteran. Graveyard services Friday, November 2 at 10 a.m. at Hillcrest Memorial Park. The memorial service Friday, 11 a.m. at First Covenant Church on North 90th Street. Memorials to Nebraska Heart Association or First Covenant Church. Heaphy Hoffman DeVore Cutler, West Center Chapel. Tooker, Cindy S. Tooker, age 63. Celebration of Life Saturday, November 3 at 11 a.m. at the Bethany Funeral Home at 82nd and Harrison. Weed, John R. Weed, age 70. Services will be held at 1 p.m. Friday. There's a visitation from noon to 1 p.m. at the West Center Chapel of Heaphy Hoffman DeVore Cutler, and then the services immediately following. Memorials will be directed by the family. And my final listing, and the oldest person of the day, is Wilson, Alexander M. Sid Wilson, 102 years old. He was a veteran, and he was enlisted in the Navy and was sent to officer candidate school, and was during World War II. A memorial concert will be held in the future. Memorial contributions to the Appalachian Mountain Club. There is no funeral home listed. Listener memorials to the Radio Talking Book Network are tax deductible and go a long way of keeping Radio Talking Book on the air. Please keep Radio Talking Book in mind when memorials are listed as donor's choice or your favorite charity. Donations should be sent to Radio Talking Book Network, 7101 Newport Avenue, Suite 205, Omaha, Nebraska, 68152. Thank you for being a Radio Talking Book listener and supporter. And Paul and I will be right back after a short break with the editorials, today's living entertainment, business and markets, and sports.
Thank you very much.
11 a.m. on the nose.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
That's crazy. Might worn out though.
Listeners for 44 years. The Radio Talking Book Network is
He's having a
Ryan
lot
did
of
a pretty decent Dracula.
Yeah.
in Omaha and statewide through the facilities of NET Radio and television. I know that you are counting, no pun intended, on the senior lunch menus, so we have them for you now. Here is Jay Nielsen.
Good morning and happy Halloween. It's October 31st. Your Meals on Wheels menu for today is pretty exciting. It is Texas chainsaw beef and 3-bean chili, goblin carrot fingers, ghostly hash browns, shallow gravy cornbread muffin with mangled margarine,
Doesn't sound good.
cherry fruit salad, and 1% milk. Have fun.
I'm very disappointed. There is nothing on the menu with blood. Be that as it may, you can hear the senior lunch menus every day, Monday through Friday. Right here.
I'd like to do something funny, but my editorial is not funny,
Now
so.
there is a public service announcement from Jay Nielsen about the upcoming Outlook Nebraska banquet. I will not be attending because I am sure they will not have blood on their menu either. Or is it either?
Here is a message from Outlook Nebraska. Come join Outlook Nebraska for a night out and some inspiration. See our impact in action at Vision Beyond Sight on Friday, November 2nd from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Embassy Suites in La Vista. Be inspired by Vera Jones, Big Ten Network women's basketball analyst, collegiate basketball coach, and Hall of Fame scholar athlete. She shares what her experience as a single mother to a blind son has taught her about vision. The evening will feature a silent auction, a cocktail hour, and dinner. Proceeds benefit Outlook's enrichment programs. Please visit outlookne.org or call 402-614-3331 to learn more or to register. Again, that is the Vision Beyond Sight event for Outlook Nebraska on Friday, November 2nd from 6 to 9 p.m. at Embassy Suites in La Vista.
The reading of the Omaha World Herald and Lincoln Journal Star are brought to you today by WellCare Health Plans, proudly focused exclusively on providing government-sponsored managed care services through Medicaid and Medicare prescription drug plans to families, children, and seniors in Nebraska. For more about WellCare, call today at 1-888-255-2605 or visit www.wellcare.com/Nebraska.
Thank you very much, Michael Halula. And with that, my friends, it's time to get back to Studio A for the second hour of the live reading of the Lincoln Journal Star and the Omaha World Herald. Here are our readers. Once again, coming to the microphones, Paul Murphy and Bob Godin. Go ahead, gentlemen.
Well, thank you very much. I'm not sure who is now operating the studio, so maybe we better just keep on going and see what happens. It's 11:05, and we're now going to switch over to the editorial page. And this article is written by Daleen Glanton, who is a writer for the Chicago Tribune. Mass shootings are a part of American culture. It is time we own up to it. We had hoped that these acts of violence could not weave their way into our national fabric. We tried to hold this grim reality at bay, hoping that each incident would somehow remain an anomaly. But so far, we have lost every battle against guns in our society, and slaughters are now part of our norm. So is hatred. Most of us would denounce anyone who blatantly expressed disdain for another based on his or her race, religion, ethnicity, or sexual orientation. That's what decent people are taught to do. But few of us have ever seen hatred up close. It remains a vague concept, only observed from a distance, from the viewpoint of someone else's eyes. And too often, our thoughts of it are fleeting. Some Americans naively believe that we had long buried this demon, but hatred is a formidable foe. The moment we let down our guard, it rises and grips us by the neck, wrestling us into the dirt, where we wallow until we find the strength to pull ourselves up. What happened at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh last weekend was the merger of two evils that have been allowed to flourish in our country. It was a marriage of convenience between hatred and guns that would inevitably lead to tragedy. The gunman, who authorities said had been spewing hatred toward Jews online for months, was able to obtain 21 guns registered in his name. He used an AR-15 style rifle and 3 handguns during his rampage. When the victims of mass shootings are young, as they often are in this country, we mourn the loss of innocence and the shattering of dreams not yet achieved. Sadly, we have become accustomed to the theft of our babies. But what when the victims are old? The irony of this shooting is that elderly people died as they were gathered to bless the young. The 11 victims had more than 800 years of combined wisdom between them, and according to those who knew them, each had so much more to give. Rose Mallinger was the oldest. At 97, she was described as a spry and vibrant, with a lot of years left. Melvin Wax, 88, was said to be always full of jokes. Bernice Simon, 84, and her husband, Sylvan, 86, died together in the same synagogue where they were married 62 years ago. Perhaps it was a coincidence that this partnership between hatred and guns would be revealed during a traditional baby naming ceremony, where Jewish children are given a Hebrew name that will follow them through every major cycle of their life. From the consecration ceremony to their coming of age, to marriage, to their burial, this name will be used as a testament to who they are. The people had gathered to offer their wishes for a life filled with loving relationship and performance of good deeds. Maybe the shooter wasn't that conniving or even that clever. Perhaps he just stumbled upon this symbolic occasion that bridges the gap between the young and old. Perhaps, as a bigoted killer, he might just consider himself lucky. Though his vicious assault has caused the entire nation great pain, the hate-filled shooter did not win. He has no cause to celebrate. If anything, he has made our nation more resilient. He has forced those of us who support gun control to pick up the mantra yet again and vow to keep it in the forefront. He has made people who detest hatred of any kind more determined to stand up against evil. On Monday, Rabbi Hassan Jeffrey Myers said his synagogue would rebuild and be back stronger and better than ever. You can cut off some branches from our tree. The tree of life has been in Pittsburgh for 154 years. We're not going anywhere, he said on CNN. I will not let hate close down my building. If we are to change our nation's course, all of us must be as committed as the rabbi to being stronger and better than ever. We cannot allow this deadly union to strengthen. We cannot allow these evil deeds to forever define who we are as a country. We must fight harder for stricter gun laws, and we must scream out so loud against bigotry that it silences the voice of hatred. Bob?
This is an editorial from the Omaha World Herald editorial board entitled Douglas County District Court, Retain Friend in Clerk's Role. The clerk of the Douglas County District Court manages a wide variety and large volume of court records. This office maintains all district court records as well as handling filings for larger civil cases and for the Board of Mental Health. The clerk also functions as the county's jury commissioner and as clerk of Douglas County Juvenile Court. The office handles filings for an estimated 16,500 cases annually. The clerk's job is one that requires strong management and people skills. John Friend, a Republican, has held the role for 3 terms. Under his leadership, the office launched an effort in 2007 to convert the district court's records to the justice system, which at that point was the case management system used by every other county and district court in the state. Conversion of the records for the state's largest district court took 4 years to complete. Friend said he pressed to make the conversion, even though most of the stakeholders were resistant, given the massive task, but he concluded it was time to make the move. During his tenure, the office has made a number of other technological advances. It now offers online filing of court documents, payment of fees and fines, notice of actions in a case, service returns from the sheriff's office, and certified copies of court documents. He has kept the office's annual budget flat at $3 million over the past decade. As technology continues to improve office efficiencies, he also has reduced the office staff from 60 employees to 45, and he continues to assess staff needs whenever an employee retires. He helped initiate the county's self-help center for litigants who want to represent themselves. The office is staffed by volunteer lawyers who provide advice to litigants. Before being elected in 2006, Friend served as a captain in the Omaha Police Department, overseeing operations involving 108 officers. He said he continues to seek ways to enhance his office's technological capabilities, weighing the cost of upgrades against the efficiencies they would provide. He runs a transparent professional office and well recognizes that the documents his team managements are public records open to all. John Friend merits another term as Douglas County's clerk of the district court. Paul?
This article written by Mark Thiessen, who is with the Washington Post. In announcing his decision to withdraw from the 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces, the INF Treaty, President Trump cited Russia's repeated violations and the fact that the treaty does not bind China, which is engaged in the world's most ambitious ballistic missile development program. But Trump's withdrawal may also be designed for another purpose. It sends a subtle but unmistakable message to North Korea. If you refuse to denuclearize, we can now surround your country with short and medium-range missiles that will allow us to strike your regime without warning. At the moment, the Trump administration appears to be making little progress in nuclear talks with Pyongyang. The threat of deployment of intermediate-range missiles in Asia could change the dynamics of those negotiations. Recall that in 1983, President Ronald Reagan announced plans to deploy hundreds of U.S. intermediate-range Pershing II missiles in Western Europe in response to the Soviet Union's deployment of SS-20 nuclear missiles. The U.S. deployment sparked mass protests throughout Europe, but it also put enormous pressure on Moscow, and in so doing, laid the groundwork for a series of arms control breakthroughs, including the INF Treaty. By withdrawing from the INF Treaty, Trump can now put similar pressure on Pyongyang. The treaty barred both conventional and nuclear land-based missiles with a range of 300 to 3,400 miles. Freed from the treaty's constraints, the U.S. can now deploy hundreds of conventional short and medium-range missiles to bases in Asia, including in Guam, 2,100 miles from North Korea, and Japan, 650 miles. There would be no longer a need to send U.S. aircraft carriers on temporary deployments to waters off the Korean Peninsula as a sign of military strength. The deployment of intermediate-range missiles in the region would put North Korea permanently in our crosshairs. Pyongyang certainly does not want these U.S. missiles on its doorsteps. Neither does Beijing, which knows such a deployment would restore U.S. military supremacy in the Pacific. According to Admiral Harry Harris, former commander of U.S. Pacific Command, China possesses the largest and most diverse missile force in the world, and 95% of its missiles would violate the INF Treaty if China was a signatory. The fact that Beijing has such missiles, while the United States does not, puts the United States at a strategic disadvantage in any conflict with Beijing. As my American Enterprise Institute colleague, Dan Blumenthal, pointed out in the Washington Post, our only possible response would be to strike China with intercontinental ballistic missiles, an unacceptable escalation. By contrast, the U.S. withdrawal from the INF Treaty allows deployment of conventional mobile ground-based missiles in Guam and Japan, improving our ability to deter Chinese aggression. Trump can deploy Tomahawk cruise missiles on ground launchers to the Pacific almost immediately after withdrawal from the treaty. Withdrawal would also pave the way for U.S. deployment and deployment of new missiles banned by the treaty, as well as new hypersonic weapons, which travel 5 times faster than the speed of sound, to compete with China's massive investment in these capabilities. This would be a massive strategic setback for both China and North Korea. Bob?
This is the letters to the Omaha Public. Dan Netley of Omaha writes, regarding the October 20 article, the case for against Medicaid expansion, the Warren Buffett quote, price is what you pay, value is what you get, seems appropriate. The argument against Medicaid expansion focuses on cost to the state, but what exactly is cost and how do we measure it? After cost is shifted from providers to insurers or the state, who ultimately pays. Eventually, we all do through premiums or tax dollars. But are we getting the best value in return? Some statistics say 5% of the population accounts for nearly half of the total cost of healthcare, while 20% of the population accounts for 80% of the cost. Most of these individuals are chronically ill with complex medical problems like diabetes or heart or kidney failure. Costs for these patients skyrockets when they receive inefficient care that is late or poorly managed, all too often through the emergency room. According to the Harvard Business Review, reducing diagnostic and treatment delays limits deterioration of health and also lowers costs by reducing the resources required for care. Whatever it is, the cost will be paid in some way sooner or later. And Barbara Wagner of Omaha writes, as I watched one of the debates between Don Bacon and Kara Eastman, it became very clear to me that the difference between the two was simple. Eastman promoted the well-being of people and Bacon promoted the well-being of profits. Business does need profits, but not at the expense of people. Healthcare, equitable tax relief, and good education all contribute to making people good workers and good consumers. In return, that will return good profits to businesses. Take care of people first, and they will take care of business. My vote will go to Kara Eastman, who has her priorities straight. Paul?
Oh no, we've been invaded. Oh
invaded.
my gosh, we've got people just scrambling all over the place here. What are we going to do? I see Superman, Chill.
The skeleton ski.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is awful scary. I don't know if we can continue. We were going to head on over to the living entertainment, and I think we've got our own living entertainment right here.
We do, and they have something to say to our listeners. What are you guys going to say?
Trick or treat! Happy Halloween! Happy Halloween!
And they do have their bags ready for treats.
And I have no treats.
We have treats out. We already gave them treats when they came in the door. So, and can you see through the window, guys? You can see Ryan over there. Ryan's our station manager, and see his necklace glows in the dark.
Yeah.
So he's got his costume on too.
Now Ryan's a ghost, so he's invisible today.
He's a ghost and he's invisible
There you
except
go.
for his
Now you can't see
except for his necklace.
I can still see
He's got the lights up. I know you can. All right, guys. Yeah. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for
Wow.
entertaining us,
You
and
guys look great.
happy treating.
Yes.
Happy
Awesome.
Halloween!
Happy
Same to you.
Halloween.
Awesome contest.
Bye.
Okay, let's go this way.
All right. Well, it's 11:21, and now that we've been entertained live-wise, and this is probably appropriate in regard to this article, we're going to switch over, as I said, to today's living in advice, and this is probably some very good advice. Politics for kids. How to steer children through midterms. Today, when the latest campaign trail gaffe and local scandal or candidate counterattack goes viral, our kids may hear about it before you do. How will you know whether a claim or a charge is based in fact? And unsubstantiated smear or typical campaign overstatement. Today's kids get their news from a variety of sources, from TV to Twitter. In fact, social media is teens' primary news source. According to a study by the University of Chicago, nearly half of young people aged 15 to 25 get news at least once a week from family and friends via Twitter or Facebook. And it can be difficult to tell fact from fiction. The candidates now use Twitter to spin their messages and slam their opponents. One of the study's conclusions is, quote, youth must learn how to judge the credibility of online information and how to find divergent views on various issues, end of quote. The media plays a huge role in our country's political process, and with a 24/7 news cycle, those effects are magnified. On the plus side, there are plenty of age-appropriate resources at your fingertips, some of which we've listed below. Here's how you can help your kids become media-savvy participants in democracy. I'm just going to highlight a couple because they have a whole page of these. Elementary school. Decode ads. When a political ad comes on TV or is stripped across or down the side of a computer screen, talk to your kids about the claims that the ad is making and how music and visuals are used to persuade viewers. Talk about why there are so many negative ads and why they work. Watch out for campaigns inspiring bullying. Kids exposed to candidates mudslinging and name-calling on TV, on radio, and in video clips online may parrot this talk and engage in bullying behavior at school or home. Explain that politicians do this to gain an advantage over their opponents or change the conversation. Explain that name-calling and bullying isn't appropriate at home, at school, or on the playground. And we're going to go to middle school. Talk about political advertising. How is a political ad like a regular commercial for a product? Is it selling a candidate just like another sales cereal? Who paid for the ad you're watching? Can political ads actually influence the outcome of an election? Another suggestion was share political cartoons. Mocking the candidates is a long cherished tradition Americans can enjoy in the name of free speech. Poking fun of a politician takes some bite out of their own harsh statements and shows kids that challenging bold claims is part of our political process. And then for the high school students, address campaign rhetoric head on. Discuss campaign issues that become national news, even if they're hard to stomach. Kids will be riveted to any election news that's outrageous. Ask your kids open-ended questions about what they've heard, what they think about what they've heard, and why the candidates' talking points and media coverage veer so far from the real issues voters care about. Watch news and debates together. Compare the media coverage on different shows and networks. Check the credibility of candidates' claims at the nonpartisan site factcheck.org. As I said, there are many other suggestions, so I would suggest checking those out, but do those before November 2nd. Bye.
This is the Ask Amy column from Amy Dickinson. Dear Amy, decades ago, starting when I was 16, I worked at a healthcare facility as an assistant. The doctor, who I revered at the time, would do things to me like discreetly squeeze my inner legs during patient visits and hold me in a long embrace after the patients left. He eventually invited me to his lake house to babysit his children while his wife was away, but then kissed me and attempted to have sex with me. This kind of behavior continued for the several years I worked for him. He recently reached out to me to wish me a happy 55th birthday. Thanks to the Me Too movement and conversations with my daughters, I have been processing how inappropriate his actions were and realizing I have lingering emotions, including anger about the situation. I am wondering if I should respond to this birthday email, and if so, what should I say? Signed, Me Too. Dear Me Too, even though it might make things easier for you, I cannot tell you what you should do in this situation. I will tell you, however, what I think I would do. Yes, I would respond to this email, and this is what I would try to say. Dear doctor, I don't think I would have contacted you independently to say this, but since you have contacted me, I've decided to respond. I want you to know that I remember, like it was yesterday, all the times you fondled me, forcibly kissed me, and sexually harassed me while I was a teenager in your employ, and quite helpless to do anything about it. I am a parent now. I hope my daughters are never victimized by a person they revere and trust the way I was. I've tried to empower them to fight back just as they have encouraged me to fight back now. Mainly, I want you to know that even though you victimized me at a young age, your sexually aggressive and criminal behavior toward me does not define me. But for me, it will always define you. So yes, I am having a happy birthday. Thanks for asking. Dear Amy, I am a 60-year-old happily married woman who has met a man who is more of a friend to me than my husband is. I have become financially involved with this man, lending him money for a new home and business. I have romantic feelings for him, which I know will go nowhere, and I'm trying to separate friendship from sexual desire. I'm not worried about the money. I like helping him because he is a deserving person and he is truly responsible and will pay me back when he can. He recently split from his wife, and I don't believe he has feelings for me, but I'm not sure. I guess I'm looking for some feedback from you. What do you think? Signed, Wondering Woman. Dear Wondering, I don't think you are quite as happily married as you might think, or rather your husband is not as happily married as he might think. You don't mention the source of ownership of the funds you were giving to this man, but in most marriages, if a spouse secretly gives or lends substantial sums of money, it is considered at the very least to be a casual violation of their vows. Your secrecy and financial and emotional attachment to another man are definitely a violation of those vows. I hope you will try to protect yourself and write down these loan agreements and insist that he sign an agreement, including a guarantee to repay and a date for repayment. And prepare to kiss that money goodbye, because I'm fairly confident you will never see it again. Also, ask yourself, if your husband became emotionally entangled with someone and chose to give them money without your knowledge, wouldn't you consider this to be an outrageous and a threat to your relationship? My feedback is that your behavior is buying you a lot of trouble. Dear Amy, Want Them Back was missing her parents who were prioritizing the needs of their elder parents over their own grandchildren. I disagree with you calling this person selfish and self-centered. My spouse and I managed to see our grandkids while we were taking on elder care. It can be done. Been there. Dear Been There, the writer's mother was overwhelmed by taking care of her 95-year-old father. Her daughter was adding extra demands. You should feel compassion towards someone who doesn't have your expansive capacity. Paul?
Well, we haven't talked about food yet, so let's just shift over there. To bean or not to bean? In Texas, beans are out of the question. If you know anything about Texas chili, then you know for certain the one thing that is not in this recipe. You are correct. If you just yelled beans, and you know you were correct, and you did not need me to tell you. Thank you very much. If you did not know that the chili in Texas never, ever contains beans, then you have not discussed chili with a Texan, or for that matter, with someone with strong opinions on the other side who thinks beans are as integral part of chili and that Texas chili is, well, for a better name, stew. Wait, stop, put down those pitchforks. I didn't say it was a stew, just that I have read that other folks from other parts of the country have said such things. I think it's chili. Really, I do. I also think chili with beans is also chili. Look, I'm not here to solve the great chili debate. I do know that the guys in my family love all kinds of chili, but are happiest when it is the meatiest. And Texas chili, also known as the bowl of red, is meaty all right. True Texas chili starts with a homemade chili paste, usually made from dried chilies. This recipe takes a shortcut with a generous amount of chili powder. If you have access to Hatch chili powder from Texas, substitute about half of that in for the chili powder blends we all normally use. The annual Tarquiniqua chili contest held in Grapevine, Texas, says in its densely written 3 pages of rules that no beans, pasta, rice, or other similar items are allowed. That's not a suggestion, friends. That's a rule. P.S. Store-bought chili powder is allowed. Cook this chili low and slow so the meat can become very soft and the liquid thickens into a sauce and doesn't just evaporate. The sauce that binds this chili together is thicker. If it gets too thick, stir in 1/2 to 1 cup water toward the end, especially if it starts to stick to the bottom of the pot. I also like to shred some of the big cubes of super tender beef at the end to give the sauce more texture. We eat our Texas red chili over rice with what I think of as traditional chili toppings: cheese, sour cream, avocado, which I gather are also acceptable toppings in Texas.
Oh, I'm hungry. Well, Heloise household hints. Dear Heloise, my husband and I have been married a short time, and I've realized that he won't touch leftovers. How do I get my husband to eat them? Signed, Grace G. of Shelton, Connecticut. Grace, put leftovers in another container and make sure the food isn't too dry from reheating. You might also explain the cost savings involved in eating leftovers, which are just as nutritious as they were the previous night. Hopefully this will help. Dear Heloise, last Sunday I made a huge amount of mashed potatoes, so needless to say, I had leftovers. What can I do with those leftover mashed potatoes? Signed, Jillian N. Tuttle, Jillian N. from Tuttle, Oklahoma. Jillian, I have a recipe for them from my book, In the Kitchen with Heloise. Here it is: leftover mashed potato patties. I'm not going to read all the ingredients, but combine them together. Fry them, make a patty, fry them in olive oil on both sides until they're golden brown. P.S. Add grated cheese or minced onions for extra flavor. Dear Heloise, we're having a small outdoor wedding and I want to keep the wedding cake from being covered with insects. I have a net to cover the cake, but what about ants? Signed, Anna P. of Ripley, Mississippi. Anna, put the cake on a table, such as a card table, and place the legs of the table in a large pan or bucket of water. Make sure the sides of the pan do not touch the table legs. This is an old hint, but it works. Dear Heloise, cleaning up a camp cook stove is such a bother that I dread going camping anymore. Is there an easy way to keep that stove clean? Signed, Walt O. of Abbeville, Louisiana. Walt, line every square inch of the camp stove with aluminum foil. Cleanup time will be a breeze. Dear Heloise, I break up leftover Halloween candy and put it in the bottom of a cup of hot chocolate or coffee. Then I stir thoroughly. Signed, Mary H. of Arlington, Virginia. Heloise says, Mary, this is one of my favorites. And finally, dear Heloise, are paper plates safe to microwave food on? My kids tell me they are not. Signed, Don in Xenia, Ohio. Don, paper plates are safe as long as they are paper white plates with no colors or dyes. In other words, no design on the plates. The paper is safe, but the dyes may not be. Paul?
Okay, we talked a little about food. We got to switch over to dessert because we've got to have something for dessert. Mexican hot chocolate is a beloved beverage made from chocolate and often cinnamon and another spice or two to bring up the heat. The combination of spicy and chocolate just plain works, and I wanted to see how it would translate into another beloved treat, the American brownie. A few things to note. One, yes, I get the humor in having the word pot and brownies in the title. Tee, very funny. But seriously, they are in fact made in one pot, so cleanup is awesome. Two, the kick from the spices, cayenne and cinnamon, is at first subtle, then more pronounced, and then fades, which means, of course, that you must go back and have another bite, and another. You could also add a pinch of Anko chili powder instead of the cayenne, or in addition to it, if you're feeling frisky as all get out. Don't substitute regular chili powder or chili spice blend. 3, when you add the eggs to the warm brownie batter, add them one at a time and beat them in quickly. This allows each egg to fully incorporate into the batter. Nothing wrong with a straight up brownie, but when you experience chocolate that is packing heat, that's a game changer. I first served these to a big group of grown-ups and kids, and after everyone took one, there were 4 left. One brave woman reached for seconds. The rest of the group looked at each other until I cut the remaining brownies into halves, and then there were none. Bob?
Well, I'm out of entertainment stuff, so I think we'll jump to the business.
We've been entertained enough.
Yeah, we've been entertained enough. And the market today, I tell you, if you follow the market, it's been the goofiest last couple of weeks that you could possibly handle. But it's up today, 291 points currently. The Dow is at 25,165. NASDAQ's up 155 at 73.16. And the S&P 500's up 36 at 27.18. So after all that craziness last week, we're at least making some gains back. The Dow is back above 25,000. In business news briefs, U.S. consumer confidence rose again this month, hitting an 18-year high. The Conference Board said Tuesday that its consumer confidence index climbed to 137.9 in October from 135.3 in September. Both readings are the highest since September 2000. The index measures consumers' assessment of current economic conditions and their outlook for the next 6 months. Both improved. Consumers do not foresee the economy losing steam anytime soon, said Conference Board economist Lynn Franco. Rather, they expect the strong pace of growth to carry over into early 2019. The share of respondents saying that jobs are plentiful rose this month to 45.9%, highest since January 2001. Harley-Davidson is recalling nearly 178,000 motorcycles in the United States because they can get stuck in gear due to a clutch problem. Documents posted Tuesday by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration say clutches can leak fluid internally, making it so the clutch doesn't have enough lift to disengage the bikes from the gears. The safety agency says that can cause riders to lose control. The Milwaukee-based company says that it has reports of 5 crashes with no injuries. U.S. home prices gains slowed for the 5th straight month in August as higher mortgage rates have lowered home sales. The S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller 20 City Home Price Index released Tuesday increased 5.5% in August compared with a year earlier, down from a 5.9% gain in the previous month. The deceleration reflects a broader weakening in the nation's housing market. Sales of existing homes have dropped for 6 straight months, and sales of new homes have fallen for the past 4. Home price increases have run ahead of wage gains for 5 years and appear to have left many buyers on the sidelines. Paul?
Capital One employees losing their jobs in Lincoln will be eligible for federal job retraining aid. That's because the U.S. Department of Labor has ruled that the layoff of more than 150 people is due at least partly to work being shifted overseas. According to a decision posted on the Department of Labor's Trade Adjustment Assistance website last week, the office ruled that the local Capital One employees qualify for aid because the workers' firm has acquired from a foreign country services like or directly competitive with services supplied by the workers, which contributed importantly to worker group separations at Capital One. Capital One announced earlier this month that about 155 positions at its Lincoln operation are being cut, with the first employee separations to take place December 7th and the layoffs wrapping up around March 1st. The company said in a statement that many of the positions being eliminated in Lincoln are in the areas of fraud, recovery, and back office operations and are being transferred to other sites. Capital One, which took over the operation from Cabela's as part of its 2017 sale to Bass Pro Shops, said the Lincoln location, which will still have more than 300 employees, will remain as a site focused on servicing customers at the Cabela's Club credit card. The Trade Adjustment Assistance petition for the Lincoln workers is the second one certified this year involving a layoff at Capital One. In March, a petition was certified for more than 100 workers at a call center in Virginia. Capital One said in a statement that the Lincoln layoff was not related to work being shifted overseas. As we shared in our filing with the Department of Labor and we communicated internally over this past summer, impacted staff functions were absorbed within existing domestic Capital One sites, a spokesman said in an email. Bob?
We'll go ahead and turn to sports, but before we do, here's a word from our sponsor. WellCare of Nebraska is proud to bring you today's reading of the Omaha World Herald and Lincoln Journal Star. For more about WellCare, call today at 1-888-255-2605 or visit www.wellcare.com/Nebraska. And we got a big game for the Nebraska football team coming up this Saturday against the Buckeyes. That will be interesting. This is an article from Lincoln. Oh, Lamar Jackson remembers. He doesn't need reminders of any of the 118 points Ohio State has scored in the last 120 minutes of play against Nebraska. The two blowouts are burned in the Nebraska defenders' brains. I know all the bad things, Jackson said. The stats from the last two times Nebraska played Ohio State are ludicrous. 0 punts forced, 75 first downs gained by the Buckeyes, along with 1,223 total yards, a 75% completion rate for OSU quarterbacks, 5.8 yards per carry as a team, and 11 yards per completion. Ohio State had 22 possessions in 2 games and scored on 18 of them. 2 of the scoreless drives were at the end of the games. For the most part, I try not to think about it, said Jackson, who started at corner in last year's game and saw action in the 2016. The challenge is staring the Huskers in the face yet again, because Ohio State, yet again, boasts one of the top offenses in the country, scoring 43 points per game and racking up more than 550 yards. They're always one of the most physical teams we'll play all year, and probably some of the best skilled players we'll see all year too, senior outside linebacker Luke Gifford said. Ohio State has thumped Nebraska so badly the past 2 seasons that junior linebacker Mohamed Berry can tell you in detail how they physically and mentally tear teams apart, because he's been torn apart twice. A lot of motions, a lot of 4 strong looks, 4 verticals. They like to stretch the field, RPOs, isolating their best player on your player, saying, okay, my player can beat your player, finding ways to put linebackers in binds ever since I played them. That's the biggest thing they want to do, Barry said. Even the curl flat player, do I take the will? Do I come off on the opposite? Do I play that flat? Do I play high or low? Those players can do stuff with a lot of space, so that's stuff they like to do. Last year, under defensive coordinator Bob Diaco, the Huskers played it safe, didn't blitz all that much, just sat back in coverage. J.T. Barrett picked the Huskers apart, completing 27 of 33 passes to 11 receivers for 5 touchdowns. He picked up 2 more touchdowns on the ground with 55 rushing yards. The good news for Nebraska is Barrett is gone. The bad news is he was replaced by quarterback by Dwayne Haskins, who might just be better. He leads the Big Ten in total yards per game, throwing for 350 yards and completing 71% of his passes. He's not a runner, which could change the dynamic of the game a bit, Barry said, but that doesn't take away the litany of offensive weapons in Haskins' disposal. The best thing they got going is all the guys they can rotate in and that play decent, Jackson said. It's not one receiver that you can take a play off and really go easy on. You got to make sure you're on your stuff technique-wise each and every snap. Defensive coordinator Eric Chinander's scheme is more aggressive than Diaco's or even Mark Banks' scheme in 2016, but Nebraska's defense still allows 33 points per game and 438 yards per game, which is 13th in the Big Ten. Diaco played it safe. Chinander will not. It becomes, how do you get your defense to play all the different formations, all the different ways they can, put guys in different positions, Chinander said. You've got to limit everything, and you just got to be sound. Gifford remembers the 2016 game in Columbus. He traveled as a sophomore, and he played mop-up duty while Nebraska was down 8 touchdowns. He remembers that feeling well. It needs to be different this year for sure, he said. Paul?
Continuing in college football, if you don't like the first college football playoff selection committee rankings, don't worry. Saturday's slate of huge games guarantees major changes are coming next week. Alabama, Clemson, LSU, and Notre Dame were the top 4 teams in the initial CFP rankings Tuesday night. After meeting for a day and a half at a hotel outside Dallas, the 13-member selection committee released the first of its 5 weekly top 25s before the 4-team field is set for the semifinals on December 2nd. Michigan was 5th, followed by Georgia and Oklahoma. Washington State was 8th, the highest-ranked Pac-12 team. Kentucky was 9th. Of course, the final rankings are the only ones that matter, but the playoff picture will be reshaped this weekend. 4 games matching top 20 teams are on tap Saturday, including Alabama at LSU and Georgia at Kentucky. West Virginia, 13th in the CFP, is at Texas, which is 17th. Michigan hosts Penn State, which came in at 14th. The first top 4 teams were no surprise. The same teams are numbers 1 through 4 in the latest Associated Press poll, except with Notre Dame 3rd and LSU 4th. Oregon's athletic director, Rob Mullins, who is in his first season as committee chairman, said LSU's FBS leading 6 victories against teams with winning records gave the Tigers the edge over undefeated Notre Dame. The Irish played at Northwestern 5-3 on Saturday. UCF was the highest-ranked team from outside the Power 5 conferences at 12. The highest-ranked team from the so-called Group of 5 conferences at the end of the regular season is guaranteed a spot in the New Year's 6 Bowls. The Knights, riding a 20-game winning streak, earned that spot last year, beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl, and proclaimed themselves national champions. UCF has yet to beat a team that currently has a winning record. The strength of schedule held the Knights back, Mullins said. But you balance that against what you see when you watch the games, he added. Last season, UCF, led by current Nebraska head coach Scott Frost, started 18th and rose to 12th by the final rankings. Bob?
Creighton's men's soccer players took the field Saturday with every intention to win, but they picked up even more motivation once they heard about the final score of another match out east. St. John's had upset Georgetown, the team in second place in the league standings. And suddenly, as they assembled at halftime, the Jays realized they could actually clinch a Big East title right there on that Saturday, as long as they could finish off DePaul. It was a chance they couldn't waste. But those final 45 minutes sure weren't easy. We were struggling a bit, junior defender Julius Four said. You tried to just focus on your game and try to win your game. In the end, we did. CU held on for a 2-1 win over the Blue Demons and clinched its second conference title since joining the Big East. Creighton's other regular season league crown came in 2014. The bench players rushed the field after the final whistle. A few brought some water bottles with them to joyously spray about. The team celebrated with hugs and high fives. It felt good, Forrest said. The Jays had set the goal in the spring when the coaches were challenging the team to be mentally tougher and to play with more passion. They reinforced their objectives when they gathered early this summer. The players' only practices before the preseason helped develop a unified purpose. They were faced with some midweek disappointments, losing to Denver and Akron, but they suppressed the disappointment and reset in time for another league test on the weekend. It's a big accomplishment for us, but it's just one step toward a bigger goal, Forrest said. That was our first goal. We achieved it, but now we focus on Wednesday and then the Big East tournament. There's still plenty at stake when number 14 Creighton hosts Georgetown at 7 p.m. Wednesday. The Jays, ranked number 26th in the RPI, are still looking to boost their postseason resume. It would be a point of pride to finish league play without a loss. The Hoyas' 9-0 record in 2015 marks the only time a team has completed conference action unbeaten since the new Big East was formed. Bottom line is there's still more work to do. We can think, all right, we've got something now. Let's build off of this, senior defender Akeem Ward said. We've accomplished one of the goals that we wanted to accomplish. It shows that we're doing the right things day in and day out, but we're not done yet. This is a good first step. Paul?
This article out of Nashville. The NFL's lone undefeated team has just made an already dominant defensive front even deeper. The Los Angeles Rams swapped a pair of draft picks for Jaguars pass rusher Dante Fowler on Tuesday, adding the third overall pick in 2015 to a defense already stocked with Aaron Donald, former Husker Ndamukong Suh, Michael Burkers, and Mark Barron for the most surprising move at the NFL trade deadline. Denver sent wide receiver Demaryius Thomas to Houston in a deal giving the Broncos some salary cap relief, and Philadelphia gave Carson Wentz another target, picking up receiver Golden Tate from Detroit. Washington added safety HaHa Clinton Dix, while Green Bay shipped Ty Montgomery to Baltimore 2 days after fumbling a kickoff late against the Rams. The Rams gave up a third-round pick in 2019 and a fifth-rounder in 2020 for Fowler, who is a free agent at the end of the season. Fowler became expendable with Yannick Ngakoub's success, and the Jaguars already opted in 2017 not to pick up the fifth-year option on Fowler's rookie deal. Fowler had 2 sacks in 7 games. With the Broncos at 3-5, Denver general manager John Elway made a move to clear both some salary cap space and more playing time for some of his younger receivers. Thomas has a salary cap figure of $15.53 million for 2019, the last year of his deal, while rookies Cortland Sutton and Deshaun Hamilton and second-year Tim Patrick are much cheaper. The Texans, 5-3, have won 5 straight to take the lead in the NFC South and had to replace Will Fuller, who tore a knee ligament in a win over Miami last week. Houston sent a 2019 fourth-round pick to Denver, with the teams swapping seventh-rounders in next year's draft. Thomas is a 9-year veteran with 36 catches for 406 yards this season. Elway said the Texans beat out 3 or 4 other teams for the veteran. It's never easy when you trade a guy that's been a household name around here for a long time and done a lot of great things, not only on the football field, but also in the community, and is a good man, Elway said. Plus, it's a good spot for Demetrius. He's going to a good football team that's in a pennant race, so it'll be good for him too. Bob?
In Husker basketball news, longtime friends will face off when the Huskers host Wayne State. Nebraska freshman center Brady Hyman and Wayne State freshman guard Nate Thayer grew up playing basketball together. On Thursday night, when Wayne State visits Nebraska for an exhibition game, the two will be on opposite teams for the first time since 4th grade. Thayer estimated that the two have played 1,000 basketball games as teammates. They led Platteview to 4 straight Class B state tournaments. They were AAU teammates through 4 years of high school and played for the same rec league teams from 5th through 8th grade. It's a super ironic that both of their collegiate careers will begin by playing each other after playing that many games with each other, Platteview boys basketball coach Tim Brodsky said. There are about 1,600 people in Springfield, where Platteview High is located. On Thursday, many residents will have a rooting interest in both teams on the court. I am super excited to watch those guys play, Brodsky said. You can't put into words what those kids have done for our school, community, and program. They spent countless hours in the gym when it wasn't required and laid a strong foundation for the younger guys in our program. Hyman and Thayer know each other well on and off the court. Thayer said it will be interesting to see how Hyman, who goes 6'11", has developed over the summer. Now, we talk every week or two, and I'm sure as the season gets going, we will talk a little less, Thayer said. I used to call out every move he was going to do in the post. Wayne State, a Division II school in Nebraska, won't be matching up again anytime soon. It is probably the last time we will play with or against each other, Hyman said. The thread of former teammates on the court Thursday doesn't end with Hyman and Thayer. Two of their former AAU teammates are also on the Wayne State roster, freshman guard Nick Ferrarini from Millard North and freshman forward Jordan Jansen, Lincoln East. I talked with Nick and Jordan about the game, and we've had some banter back and forth, Hyman said. There are more on-court connections. Vance Jansen, a Wayne State senior guard from Blair, played 2 years of AAU ball on the same team as Nebraska's Johnny Trueblood, a junior walk-on from Elkhorn South. Other local players who are likely to appear in the game for the Huskers are senior forward Tanner Borchert, Gothenburg, and redshirt freshman walk-on Justin Costello, Elkhorn South. It will be a homecoming of sorts for Wayne State redshirt freshman Nosa Iyagbaye, Lincoln Parkview Christian, and also Wildcat junior center Tony Bonner, Council Bluffs Abraham Lincoln, and freshman guard Nate Moore. Glenwood are two former Western Iowa standouts. Since Tim Miles became coach at Nebraska in 2012, the Huskers have played 3 lower-level in-state schools. It's something Miles believes benefits basketball in the state. I think it is a great opportunity for us to play a local school, Miles said. I think it's a good thing to do. I think we have played just about every